Hey everybody, I'm Jack Reeder with Future Pastimes, and I'm one of the designers on Dune Conquest, also known as Dune, a game of conquest and diplomacy. Although this is a little bit silly because it's kind of long and there's not a ton of diplomacy currently in this game. So we all just kind of call it Dune Conquest for short because it makes a lot more sense. Anyway, in this video, I'm going to cover 5 of the sneakiest cards in Dune Conquest. These are cards that can give you the win in a battle in a way that is hard to calculate or anticipate for your opponent. 3 of those cards are actually from the market deck, and they were played after the battle. The other 2 cards are battle cards that would need to be in your battle plan. So just as a reminder, when you're making a battle plan, you're going to use a battle wheel that will let you put your leader disc in there, dial how many of your forces you're willing to sacrifice in order to win. And then you're able to play a card in your weapon slot and one in your defense slot. And there's really no physical slot, so you play cards and you hold them up and then you reveal everything. But certain cards in the battle deck are neither weapons nor defenses. However, if you want to include them in the battle plan, they are taking up that slot. So if you are playing, for instance, a worthless card, in order to get rid of it, it would need to be in your weapon or defense slot, which would prevent you from playing a weapon or defense or any other card in those slots. So let's take a look at the battle cards first. Our first one is a card called Endless Ranks. So it's neither a weapon nor defense. This little arrow icon helps you to remember that. It's also brown where weapons are red and defenses are blue. But it lets you dial higher. Now this one is probably the least sneaky in the group, but what's going to happen is you're going to have a number of forces in a territory, and so will your opponent. And that information is public. The players can look and say, all right, you have 5 forces, I have 5 forces. The maximum number you can dial in that case is 5, which might help you win the battle, but you would lose all 5 of those forces. And most of the time, you want to have at least 1 force left over in a battle. If it's a stronghold, then you will control that stronghold at the end of the battle. And if it's a territory with spice, any of those forces will be able to collect spice after the battle in the spice collection phase. But the way Endless Ranks works is you can actually dial 0 when you make your battle plan with Endless Ranks in the battle plan. And then after all the battle plans, or both the battle plans, are revealed, you can look to see what number do you actually need to dial in order to win. Because if the other player played a low leader, and you played a high leader and they weren't killed, or you did manage to kill their leader and that leader's strength is no longer being added to the total, you may find that you don't need to dial anything, or maybe you can get away with just dialing 1 in order to win. And remember, if you have battle advantage, then you win a tie. So again, you might be able to get away with few losses of your forces. So that's what makes Endless Ranks a little bit sneaky, is that you get to actually see all the information before you decide what you're going to dial, and that can be very handy. Now, the rest of these cards are about reversing your fortunes or having totals that were not calculable based on information that players know. And that brings us to the other battle card, and that is Reinforcements. So again, it's a brown card with the arrow, so it's not a weapon, it's not a defense, but it'll go into those slots. And this lets you add 3 to your total. So you play it as part of your battle plan. Instead of a weapon or a defense, adds 3 to your total. So again, normally there's a certain amount of information that is public. Players will see, all right, you have 5 forces in there. And everyone knows the strength of everyone else's leaders. It's on the little leader sheets, which is public. There's no secret information. So they can say, all right, 5 is the highest strength leader that you could play. So if you have 5 forces and a 5 strength leader, the highest your battle total can be is 10. And if, let's say, the Fremen, they have a Stilgar who is a 7 strength leader. So they might say, well, if I've got Stilgar in there and I dial a 5, that's 12, which I know that you can't beat, so I'm good to go. But let's say that they've got this in there. That's now a +3. And if they did dial a 5 and they did play a 5 strength leader, now they have 13, which is going to win them that battle. So Reinforcements is a sneaky card. Once you play it, you discard it. So it may not show up again in the game. It's one of those cards, once you get it in your hand, you got to decide when is the optimal time for me to play this, because that +3 is pretty handy to put in there. Now, players who are familiar with the game, they played it a few times, they know this card is in there. And as you get more and more familiar with Dune Conquest, you can take those sorts of things into consideration, the possibility that somebody might be playing Reinforcements in there. So that exists, and players who, again, play a lot of this game will be familiar with that sort of thing. That doesn't mean it's going to be easier for you to get past it. So you have to weigh it with everything. Should I be playing a weapon so that I can remove their leader's strength? Should I be playing a defense so that I can make sure that I add my leader's strength? Of course, with that, it's a guessing game as well. So if let's say you have a shield and you're playing it, that's great if they play a projectile weapon. If they play a poison weapon, though, then that shield was useless, and maybe you were better off playing Reinforcements and just counting on the fact that your leader is probably going to die. It's one of the nuances that I think makes Dune Conquest a pretty exciting game. Let's now talk about the 3 market cards that can be pretty sneaky and change things up. The first one is very much like Reinforcements. It is Counterattack. And this one you play after the battle plans have been revealed, and it adds 4 to your battle total. So this is another one of those things that the experienced players, they're going to know it's out there, and they're going to be trying to hope that this is not the time it's going to show up, or they're going to try to account for it by bringing even more forces than they probably would need and dialing even higher to account for things like Counterattack and Reinforcements. So that 4, that's big. That's very explosive to have an extra 4 in your battle plan. It almost always results in that player winning the battle. So yeah, it's a particularly sneaky card to get in there, but once you do get it in your hand, and remember, everyone can have a hand of 3 market cards, but you have to buy those. The battle cards you get for free, but the market cards are 2 spice each in the gain cards phase. But yes, once you get that, it's like, this is burning a hole in my pocket. I got to spend this card. But you want to keep it for a battle either that you are trying to prevent someone else from winning or going for the win yourself. The next one is a little bit of a different direction, and it is Poison Tooth. And the way Poison Tooth works is, again, after battle plans are revealed, you play it, it will kill both leaders, no matter what defense card they played. So, yeah, and the one-man army, which is a great defense, doesn't stop Poison Tooth. There is no defense against it. So what happens is it's going to be all down to the dial, who dialed higher. And of course, if you've got Reinforcements in your battle plan, that's nice. You can also have the 4 from Counterattack. Poison Tooth is a great card for if you have dialed higher, getting a lot of spice for both dead leaders. But yeah, it's a really nice, if you know that you can out-dial somebody and you've got this card, you make your battle plan the best you can. You hope for the best, but you know you've got that as a safety net to take out both of the leaders, and it's just about the dial. And that brings us to our last card, which is sneaky in a completely different way, and it's the Way. So the way this one works is after battle plans are revealed, you can discard the card that is played on the weapon or the defense side of your battle plan and play a different card that could be in that side. So a typical example is you've played a shield, the battle plans are revealed, and they didn't play a projectile weapon, they played a poison weapon. Luckily, you have an extraction fan, so you play the Way, you discard your shield, you put the extraction fan into the battle plan, and now your leader is protected. But you could switch in something like Reinforcements. You're like, well, all right, my leader is dead, but I need a couple more points in order to still win this battle. And you can use the Way. If, for instance, in an example, let's say you did not have an extraction fan, your shield is useless, might as well discard it and add 3 to your total with that card. So And you can also use it to swap in or out a worthless card. So let's say that you have played the shield and it turns out they didn't play a weapon at all. So you didn't need the shield. You could play the way to say, all right, I'm just going to ditch that shield and I'm going to put my worthless card in there so that I can also ditch that card. So this is what we've got in there. Otherwise, battles typically fall into the, well, I hope that I have the right defense against your weapon and that you don't have the right defense against my weapon, which is part of the classic Dune battle system. And it's not quite rock, paper, scissors. There's a little bit more going on, but it also is thematic. I think it's a fantastic battle system, but we do have these sneaky things that are in the game. And if there's an expansion for Dune Conquest, there may be a couple more of those types of cards. Not a lot. Try to keep things reasonably together. But I think it's handy for people to know, especially if you are relatively new, these sneaky cards do exist in the game. So be aware, plan accordingly if you can. And if you get these cards, make sure that you're using them responsibly. Don't waste them. Use them for a clutch moment where you need to win that battle. Let me know if you have any questions about these cards. Let me know what you think of these cards. Do you have a favorite? Do you have one that you just absolutely detest? Have you removed it from your box? I like these cards, obviously, but I'm horribly biased. But I'm interested in the discussion and the feedback. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you again soon.